What's going on, Buff Nation, other college football fans? Hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your weekend. This is going to be a follow-up to my video that I posted yesterday, so I'll post this in the comments in the description regarding the Big 12 selling their naming rights as well as seeking a $1 billion private equity investment for the future of the conference. Really interesting. And so I talked a little bit about what this could mean for the Big 12, hopefully getting themselves in striking distance of the Big Ten and SEC just when it comes to earning potential and separating itself further and further from the ACC in this tier of Power Four conferences. Now, want to shout out Wild Ute. He had some great thoughts on this on Twitter. And I mean, I'd even break down how far $1 billion of private equity goes in a 16 school conference, right? And he did it all for us graciously today, or yesterday rather. He said, when you break this out 16 ways for the 16 programs, it's $62.5 million per school. That'll cover the P2 Big 12 revenue gap for only 2 years. That's not sustainable. Private capital needs to be used for one-time events such as helping with ACC exit fees or starting a new conference network. Very interesting. So, he also doubled down on this by saying, hey, how can the Big 12 permanently bridge the P2 revenue gap, make a lot more money, negotiate a stronger media rights deal? You want to eliminate competition, and that's by taking in the ACC or taking some of the schools from the ACC. And he broke it down here. What would be a 20-team conference? And I love this idea. Who are the 4 ACC schools that would be added to the new look Big 12? That would be Louisville, I think a great college football brand. Miami, hey, similar to Colorado in some senses, but they've been more relevant, right, for a longer period of time. But they've had their glory days. They're looking to get back. We'll see how my bet with Coach Hayes turns out. Hopefully, I'm not putting on that Miami Hurricanes helmet, and he's putting on that Buffs helmet at the end of the year. It'll be a lot of fun. Stanford, they've had their glory days in the past. Used to put a ton of NFL talent in the NFL. And then Virginia Tech, they've had some really great eras in their program history as well. And I think that these would both be very realistic options for the Big 12 to take schools from the ACC. Now, I want to get back to this. I talked a little bit about this with CVC, European-based private equity fund. If their deal goes through with the Big 12, again, that's $1 billion. Yes, this could bridge the gap for a couple of years, but my hope, and this is what you see with private equity, they invest for the purpose of like growing the revenue streams, right? So it's not just, hey, we're going to just give this money to the schools for a couple years and then that's just it. No, there needs to be strategy behind it. I think Wild, you brought up a great point, was that with the ACC, with that media rights deal being a mess, this might help and incentivize, similarly to how we saw Colorado being incentivized to be the first one to leave the Pac-12, go to the Big 12 last summer. They got a nice little bonus. Incentivize moving or having some of the ACC schools move into the Big 12. Okay. Also, this is something that I brought up, is you would hope that some of this investment would go towards a global media deal for the Big 12, a global media deal. Yes. Does the Big 12 and the ACC, or the Big 12 and the SEC, do they have the best media deals here in the US? Do they have the best kickoff times and all that sort of stuff? Yes. But the Big 12 could be the first to that at a global level. We could get those prime spots, which would be pretty interesting. Again, I only follow the EPL, the English Premier League, very casually. But from what I understand, when private equity has come into that league over the last 10, 20 years, you've seen more of these global media deals happen, continuing to grow the game to where it's the most watched soccer league in the world. So, and players are making a ton of money. So I wonder if that's more so the strategy with seeking this investment, is to find other avenues of revenue than just an an American media deal, which right now that's just been the primary and only source of significant revenue for these schools. If you're Brett Yormark, do you either just sit back and say, you know what, we're always going to play second fiddle, or do you take some risks to try and get yourself in the conversation for there to be a power 3 rather than a power 2, right? That's what I love about his entrepreneurial approach. If you're the Big 12, you have nothing to lose, in my opinion. Maybe the Big 10 and SEC have more to lose if they were to invite private equity into this thing. But let's see how this plays out. Again, I love the entrepreneurial approach and the it's confidence. It's entrepreneurial confidence to take some chances that Brett Yormark is doing with the conference, and I think that's what's really exciting to watch with this entire thing. So, y'all, let me know your thoughts on this. I think again, I really appreciated your comments yesterday, the discourse, the different thoughts on this. I know that somebody brought up a really great point about, hey, like, private equity is like what's brought things down in this country, which there's plenty of argument for that, for sure. I won't disagree with you there. But if you're in the Big 12 shoes, if you're Brett Yormark's shoes, how else do you bridge that gap? I don't know. I'm interested to hear some of y'all's ideas that are outside of private equity, but I think private equity could be one of the most effective ways to do this. And especially when you've heard the rumors about Brett Yormark wanting to do some different games down in South America, international, stuff like that. So I think this kind of, the way that I'm reading this whole thing is global television deal, global media rights. Maybe we go on and play some games globally, which I feel a little bit iffy about that. I'm cool with it at the pro level, not as cool with it in college football. And using some of the funds to incentivize, one, the fall of the ACC, and poaching some great brands from the ACC to come over to the Big 12. We need to continue to widen that gap between the Big 12 and the ACC. We don't want to get stuck dealing with the ACC. Sadly, this is like it's a kill or be killed world in college football. It is the most heartless and gruesome, sport that we love. I mean, it is just all about business, no feelings involved, right? So y'all let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to see what happens with it this summer. I'll be back again soon, y'all. As always, go Buffs and go Big 12. We need like a Big